Alright, welcome back to 90.5 Minutes of the News here on WUSC 90.5 and HD1 Columbia, and today we're going to be talking with some arts and cultures writers for the Daily Gamecock. We're talking about their awards for 2016, their best of 2016, and so I'm joined in the studio by a couple of good guys. Why don't you go around and introduce yourselves?
I'm Alex Wyatt.
I'm Darby, Hallman.
I'm William Outlaw.
And how long have you guys been working for the Daily Gamecock, and why did you guys get involved with the Daily Gamecock?
I just joined recently. Since I'm a freshman, I joined during the first semester, and I wanted an outlet where I could write and talk about things that I'm interested in, which is particularly arts and culture, so I signed up for that.
And I'm basically the same way. I started writing last spring, about a year ago, and I've been an editor last semester and this semester, so yeah, it's been an awesome learning experience.
And I was a copy editor 3 semesters ago, and then just started writing last year sometime. So.
And I've gotten a lot of questions. So the Daily Gamecock, when are their print days? When can you pick up a copy?
You can pick up print copies on Thursday and Monday.
All right, so let's get right into it. I think the first section I wanted to talk about was video games, and unfortunately going to college, I don't have as much time to play video games as I did in high school, but there were definitely a good amount of games that came out this year. So I think let's just start off with what was your guys' decision for best game of 2016.
Well, our staff voted on all these, and ours was Uncharted 4, which I definitely stand behind. My personal vote was Inside. It was a smaller game I played dead, but I definitely stand behind Uncharted, and I think William even said it was one of his favorite games ever.
Yeah, I think objectively, I think it has to be one of the best games I've played, probably, just in terms of all the effects coming together. I know, Darby said that Inside was really good. I never got to play that, but there's a few other games that were talked about.
Yeah, because I started out with the Uncharted series on PlayStation, and how has the series kind of progressed to make be 2016 Game of the Year, where Uncharted 4 was such a good game?
I just think it's just Naughty Dog's narrative, storytelling has just gotten so much better over the years. The first Uncharted, it was definitely good, but it was kind of it was an Indiana Jones type, thing or whatever, and it kind of had to build its own thing. But Uncharted 4, it was just the perfect end cap to Nathan Drake's story and to the story they've been building up.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Naughty Dog has continued to show that they're the kings at narrative and storytelling, building characters, and as good as the gameplay is, I think it's the world and the story that people keep coming back to. So.
Mm-hmm. And didn't Naughty Dog also reboot the Ratchet and Clank series this year?
That was Insomniac.
Is that Insomniac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which that's also on my list. That game was also good.
Yeah. And because I guess also on my list of top games is Doom. The Doom remake, I absolutely loved that game. I don't know what it was. I was never a huge Doom guy, but just one of the trends I found for this year, I guess we can kind of get onto later, but this fast-paced action-adventure, first-person shooters kind of come back, Overwatch and Doom kind of being one of those examples. But Alex, what were some of your, I guess, top games or stuff you enjoyed this year?
I wasn't really able to play too many games, but going back to Doom, I remember my dad talking about playing Doom years and years ago, and to see it come back just recently was really interesting, and to see him react to all the different changes that have been made. But I've played the new Call of Duty a little bit and just tinkered around with things like that and playing zombies, and that was pretty fun. But if I get a chance, Uncharted 4 sounds like the way to go.
Yeah. And so I guess, did any of you guys get a chance to play Overwatch this year?
Yes, that's another one on my list. That's it's close to number one, because that's definitely the game I put the most time into this year, and which was surprising for me, because I'm not really usually a multiplayer shooter guy, but a few of my friends got it, and eventually I was like, all right, fine, I'll try it, and then I was hooked.
Yeah. And so what about the game just kind of has you keep going back and playing it, or just kind of being hooked on it, like you said?
A big thing is just the variety of characters and all the moves they can do and everything. That's the thing for me that sets it apart from the Call of Duties and other shooters is I'll be playing I'll be playing like Soldier for a while if I want to be just a normal shooter or whatever. But if you want to be a healer, you can switch to Mercy. You can switch to other people, and kind of like even if you're not the best shooter, like I'm not amazing, I can still switch over to another role, and it's definitely like a team thing, and it was a lot of fun, especially when I got like 5 of my friends together, and it was an awesome team thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think another trend was kind of not couch gaming, but kind of like community gaming, and especially that with the Nintendo Switch announcement. And so looking forward in 2017, what are your guys' thoughts on the Nintendo Switch, if you have any thoughts on the Nintendo Switch?
Jeez. I don't know. I think the Nintendo Switch is a beautiful piece of hardware, and it has a lot of options. I think it's really well made from the little I've seen of it, but it has no software that's happening right now. Launching with Zelda Breath of the Wild, which, looks phenomenal, but that can't be the only thing that your system's going to run on day one. So, they announced even Mario and stuff, but that's not due until holiday. So, I don't know. It's exciting, but
and I would love nothing more than for it to succeed. But just with the Wii U kind of just reaching its like lonely death last year, and just like nothing was released for it pretty much all year. So I assumed obviously they're building up to some gigantic Switch announcement that's going to blow my mind, but it really didn't.
What a strange conference that was.
Oh my god. What is 1-2 Switch? And how is 1-2 Switch $60 and
How is it not
packed in the game? I don't understand.
And yeah, because what else was just like weird about the Nintendo conference? Because they held that out in middle of January, end of January, right? Or,
yes.
Yeah, there was like January 12th, and like there's. Yeah, I wrote an article about it. You could go on and on. There's just weird messaging things, like they're online, like they have a paid online service, and which, Sony and Microsoft have that too. That's fine in theory, but then there's weird things about it, like they offer free games like PlayStation does, but like it's only for a month, and then it gets taken away, and it's just there's just little things like that where Nintendo is already working at such a disadvantage from the Wii U selling so poorly that they needed to be humble and just come out and like find ways to undercut and find ways to compete in the market, and they just still kind of seem tone deaf to me.
I think it was just clear that they didn't have any software because they just spent time on weird things like the vibration in the controller and like you were saying, 1-2 Switch, which is a cool party game, but not something that they should be spending that much time on. So it was just weird.
And you mentioned also Inside, Darby. Why don't you tell a little bit about what the setting of that game is? Because it was on a lot of people's lists for best indie game or kind of best atmospheric game. You can go in a little detail without spoiling anything, because I know it's one of those.
Yeah. It's definitely it's a very weird game. It's a very artsy game, but my biggest compliment of that game that I've said to everyone is that it's probably the closest I've ever seen to just a perfectly made game. That's because it's a very short experience. It's only 2 hours, but everything in that game is there for a purpose, and every puzzle, there's no things just to pad time or anything. It's eerie. It's set in this very dark color palette, and you're controlling this little boy, and you don't know where you're going. You're just kind of going through this wilderness, and there's things trying to attack you, and it's just the entire way you're going through it. You're constantly just wondering where this is heading, and the ending was. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was just so bizarre, and it capped it was a perfect cap to the whole thing. So I really suggest that game to everyone. It's not that expensive, not that long. You can beat it in a night.
Yeah. And another thing that came out in 2016, which a lot of people were looking forward to, but disappointed a lot of people, was No Man's Sky. Did anyone get a chance to play that game? Or just have any thoughts on how it was kind of presented, and then what the finished product was nothing like how they presented it?
Yeah, I was never able to play, or maybe I shouldn't say never was able to, just never did play No Man's Sky. I think it was unfortunate how the marketing seemed to be a little off. I think a lot of it was definitely audiences actually just hyping it up too much, not thinking about what it actually was setting out to be. But it's clear that, there was a lawsuit that that they were undergoing too, so it's clear that their marketing was not where it needed to be, which is unfortunate. But
yeah, I think it should be a lesson to gamers and to us and other people in the media and everything not to hype things up, because I was excited for this game, but I was definitely not completely sold on it to the point where some people were. But at the same time, they also did promise things that never ended up happening. So hopefully this will be a good warning story for for future.
And then looking forward to 2017, any games that you guys are looking forward to?
Jeez, I'm going to have to look at my list now.
Yeah.
Well, Horizon's one of the closest ones that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, robot dinosaurs. I
think Horizon's definitely super close. But for me, definitely Mass Effect Andromeda launches in March. That's I'm gonna put a lot of hours into that. So
yeah, I played the first Injustice so many times with all my roommates, and so Injustice 2 is coming out in May. Looking very forward to that game.
Yeah, I have a friend who's the complete DC fanatic, so we will definitely be getting into that.
Cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on 90.5 Minutes of the News, and we will be back right after this. With 3 other writers for the arts and culture section of the Daily Gamecock, if you guys want to go around, introduce yourselves again, because there are a lot of voices in this room.
Yeah, I'm Alex Wyatt.
I'm Darby Hallman.
I'm William Outlaw.
All right, and so we just previously talked about video games, and the arts and culture section's best video game 2016 was Uncharted 4. And now we're going to transition to television, and a show that was not aired on television but is actually streamed on Netflix. What was your guys' pick for best television show of 2016?
Our pick was Stranger Things, which I think a lot of people have been talking about this year.
And was this a unanimous pick, or was it kind of contested, or?
It was a little close. We had some Game of Thrones in there, and I think Black Mirror or something, but I think it won by at least a few votes. Definitely, I think everyone. I voted for Game of Thrones, but I love Stranger Things.
Yeah, because Stranger Things was started with Winona Ryder. She hasn't been anything in a long time, and it was all kind of harking back to the that 80s sci-fi thriller sort of thing, like E.T. or I don't know, that Stephen King-esque style of. These kids kind of going up against this fantastic beast and just getting themselves into shenanigans that kids would get into, but having more and more layers and more depth than that. Now, what other shows did you guys like this season or this year? Because what really surprised me was Atlanta. Donald Glover's show. He won Golden Globe for that, and I was completely blown away by Atlanta.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it's one of those shows that gives a really unique and true insight into what it's like to grow up and live in a place like that or an area like that. And so I think it's really beneficial to have something like that around now when all of these, when culture is so important, and combining cultures and unifying in a time like this is very important, and I think that show really helps to do that.
And it offers just a lot of great commentary on what's going on right now. Another show that offered great commentary to the election cycle was South Park. Very much enjoyed that season of South Park. A lot of people have been South Park's kind of lost its edge. I thought it was as sharp as ever this season.
Right. I thought it was good. I haven't watched much of it, but I watched it right after the election and that whole little subplot go on, so I thought it was really funny and really well done. And I was surprised that they turned around so quickly and released an episode almost immediately after the election.
Yeah, I would disagree with this, but I think South Park's gotten better. I mean, I think South Park's better than it's ever been. They're just so clever.
And another show that always is on everyone's top list, Game of Thrones. And I'm Darby, a big Game of Thrones guy. I noticed your wallpaper was Game of Thrones on your computer.
Yeah, I've read all the books. I've spent way too much time with Game of Thrones. But,
what did you think of this past season of Game of Thrones?
I thought, it was incredible. It was especially coming off of season 5, which, compared to just other television shows, it was still good, but it was definitely the worst Game of Thrones season. I think it was kind of slower and made some questionable decisions, but season 6, it went the other way like crazy. It was very fast. They were, going from plot line to plot line and just moving the thing along. Maybe a little too fast at times, but it was exciting. It was very, very exciting.
And what is it? It's setting the stage for how many seasons are left of Game of Thrones? Because I think it's winding down, or at least
there's 2 more. I know, and they're going to be shorter. I know this one's 7 episodes. I think the other one's either 7 or 8. But apparently it's supposed to be a higher production, higher budget for them, but smaller amount of episodes.
And so, being someone who also reads the books, what do you think of this? How do you think of the showrunners are taking Game of Thrones compared to how George R.R. Martin is taking the books?
It's basically 2 different beasts at this point, and it's hard to really compare. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna be the book snob. I think I do prefer the books, but it is kind of interesting to be able to have these 2 different stories. You don't see the same thing, so I'm interested to see where they take it. I think they do some things better, and there's some things that are finally happening now. I don't know how much we want to go into the things, but there's some things I've been waiting for a long time to happen this season, and I'm excited to see where they go.
And so another show kind of based on written content, I guess more like comic book content, Walking Dead returned this year. Now, any of you big Walking Dead people?
I was up to this year.
So I watched the pilot for season 6, and that did it for me. That was I was just done with the show.
You could kind of feel it, its decline after 3 or 4 seasons. This has kind of gotten thin as far as its plot goes.
Yeah, and so why do you think that Walking Dead's kind of just gotten all of this, not hate, but just people have just lost interest in the show?
I think there's only so many things you could really make the show about when it's such a specific plot to begin with. So the first few seasons were really exciting, but I think each season, basically, there's a main antagonist, and it's their group trying to fight them. And I think after so many seasons, that just gets old. So I kind of just lost interest for that reason.
I think I do agree with that somewhat, but I think a large part of it is just the audience are starting to feel cheated at this point. I think they tease Glenn's death, 2 seasons ago, and he came back to life, basically.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then he, obviously everyone knows he died now at this point, but, so I think there's just been too many cheap shots, too many, I guess, cliffhangers trying to get better or more views, the next week, so, I don't know, I think they feel cheated.
Yeah, I mean, it just became kind of a rehashing of look how violent we can be, and look how we can strip the censors without actually having to blur anything. I mean, they still they can't cuss in the show. I mean, I could go on for how
was that one of the seasons ended with that just super lackluster line. They couldn't curse or something. I forget what it was, but it was terrible.
And it's you're a situation where you're showing guts being spilled, but yet you can't say these 7 certain words. Yeah. It just kind of pulls you out of it, and it's just there's only so many stories you can tell about zombies, and I think people are kind of getting tired of it. But there is so many good television shows, and the problem with that is that I don't have enough time to watch all those television shows. So do you guys have a list of television shows that you want to see but haven't been able to get to?
Absolutely.
100%. It's kind of a confession to me, but I have not finished Breaking Bad.
I know. It's ever. I watched 3 episodes and was nope.
You gotta get through the first few episodes, and it just picks up. That's my favorite show of all time.
It's so amazing.
I'm gonna make a point of doing that. There's just something. I'm 2 episodes away from finishing Westworld.
That was really good. I loved Westworld.
I really enjoyed it so much. It's they built suspense in there so much. I still have no clue where it's going. I've not been able to guess it any point of the way, but just pretty much every HBO show right now is just.
I think one of my favorite shows this year was The Night of, which a lot of people aren't talking about, and I wish they were because it's excellent. It's basically this guy that gets wrongly convicted of a murder, and it's about the judicial system that's kind of screwing him over again and again after he tries to come back from that. And it's really interesting. It's a lot like The Wire, if you've ever seen that show, and it just provides a really in-depth and true perspective on legal systems and like how people are discriminated, all while being like really entertaining and really well acted. So I'm a huge fan of The Night Of.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned The Wire. I know one of the characters, Omar from The Wire,
is a main character.
And The Night Of also stars John Turturro, and he's playing the lawyer trying to save this main character's name is Nas. And you think from the way that they preview it, the show's going to be about it's going to be a courtroom drama. It's going to be like Law and Order. But what it really turned into was this prison drama, which hasn't really taken ground and which made the show just so fun to watch. It was 8 episodes. They're talking about making a season 2. I don't think they need a season 2.
I hope it's just not like a True Detective season 2 where the first season is phenomenal and the second season is just like not even worth talking about. It's just so good. I must just leave it.
I tried to convince myself that True Detective season 2, it's fine, it was fine, but the further I got away from it, I was
the first season is one of the best shows I've ever seen, and then the second one was just kind of boring. I just hope it doesn't do that.
The second season of True Detective was just so out there. I mean, it tried to do so many things. I thought Vince Vaughn I actually really liked him in the show. I'm just a huge Vince Vaughn guy. If you see that and then watch Wedding Crashers,
oh man,
it's just going to be a huge stark contrast.
He gets too much hate. I think he's a fine actor. It just got kind of convoluted for sure.
Have you seen Mr. Robot, George?
No, that's the movie topping off my list.
I think season 2 is the top of my list now. I binged it over Christmas break, and it's a phenomenal TV show.
Mm-hmm. And so what is Mr. Robot about? Because I rarely see trailers for it. I just hear about it.
No, I mean, so basically this guy, Elliot's his name, he works at a security firm, and he basically he's also like a vigilante hacker in some aspects. He suffers from horrible anxiety and depression.
Addicted to opiates and stuff like that.
I mean, the show's just about him trying to.
And then he gets in contact with a hacker group, basically, and it's about him deciding whether or not he should go with them and try and start an anarchist government or something like that, or take down this one corporation who's pretty much monopolized all these industrial sectors and become kind of an evil corporation. And I think they're even called Evil Corp in the show, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what he thinks of it is anyway. But he, I mean it's a very surreal TV show because it basically takes his perspective, and I mean as you go throughout the show you realize that he's more and more crazy. So. It's cool.
It's all in a lot of it's in his subconscious, which is interesting to go inside that kind of mind.
Interesting. And because when you kind of talk about how it's from that perspective, I kind of think of Sherlock. Mm-hmm. So, and I know the third season of Sherlock aired early January, and the first episode, I don't know if any of you guys watched it. It was not
bad ratings.
It had very bad ratings. It just did not feel like an episode of Sherlock. It just felt like drama with Benedict Cumberbatch playing some guy who's a sociopath.
Still better than most TV.
That's not bad, but compared.
And so I still have to finish that. Yeah, Mr. Robot's also on my list. Another show that I absolutely loved was Last Chance U on Netflix.
That's good.
And it was basically talking about this community college in Mississippi, or this junior college, that always runs the table in football, and it just detailed an entire season of this team and if they were going to three-peat for winning another JUCO national championship. John Franklin is in it, and he's one of the rotating quarterbacks at Auburn right now, and that is a show I thoroughly enjoyed. Now, going back to Stranger Things, is your guys' pick for best TV show of the year. What do you think is going to happen in season 2? Definitely going to be spoiler talk right now. Season 2.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, I just heard I've heard about Stranger Things from other people. I didn't know that much about it. Went into it, and I just kind of assumed, or I shouldn't assume because everything has sequels, but I kind of assumed that was going to be it. So that very last scene, I was like, what?
I really liked it. I think the kids are great. That's one thing I'm worried about is them growing up and not being those like precocious little kids that they are in the show. That's part of what made it so good is because kids are usually misses for acting, but they were all really, really good. So I'm a little worried about them just growing up because they're at a point in their lives where they mature really fast too. And in a similar sense, I thought it was going to be a one-off thing because it was like noir, like stylized kind of thing. But I'm excited. It was really well done, so I have high hopes if they do.
I just hope it's not going to just be like kind of a cheap, like one of the other kids gets caught.
It's going to be hard because dealing with the upside down whole aspect of the show, it's going to be hard to come up with a new thing that they encounter if all these other supernatural things are going to happen. I don't know. That's a little iffy for me. So we'll see.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't it doesn't become the same thing. Like there's the equivalent of 11 or something like that. But that was such a cool, kind of unique, but also nostalgic idea. I have faith that they can do something. Do you have any theories?
I mean, I'm just grasping for straws, like thinking about what they can do.
Exactly.
Like the upside down. They could obviously like have another kid get taken, but then that's just lazy.
That's unoriginal,
And it's lazy parenting too.
Something's obviously gonna happen to Will. It's just what?
Yeah, because you saw that where you could see the upside. So like the way Stranger Things ended was Will. He got
coughed up a nice slug.
He coughed up a nice upside down slug, and so he gets a glimpse into the upside down, and so maybe will the second season rotate like around him and his ability to see like both sides of the upside, like the normal world and then the upside down, which I think that would be pretty cool. But other than that, I just want to see more of the cop. I forget his name.
He was good.
I like him.
I think 11's going to be in it a lot more too.
Mm-hmm.
I think like they're going to flesh out that character a lot more and use her a lot more. So I'm excited for that. I thought the actress was really good in it. So.
Mm-hmm. And that soundtrack was so good.
The soundtrack was amazing.
So good.
Every single time that theme song came on.
And the biggest disappointment of the show for me was I thought it was 8 episodes, and so I got to the 7th episode, and I was like, no. There's another episode.
Yes.
Oh, man. So we're going to take another break here on 90.5 Minutes to the News, and we'll get back with the Daily Gamecock's Best Movie of the Year 2016. Stay tuned. Gamecock talking about the best movie or favorite movies of the year. This is also going to be a precursor to our Oscar discussion we're going to do later in February as that date comes closer. But let's start off with what did you guys have for your best movie 2016?
Our best movie was Rogue One, which that's what I voted for. It was just an awesome new direction for Star Wars to be taken, where it's you got more of a human look at the Star Wars world with not really Jedi or the Force or anything. It was more about an actual Star War, and I thought it was just awesome.
And was there, because to me it kind of felt like a landslide when you guys chose Rogue One. Was there any kind of like dissenting opinions or like other movies?
There were. I think we had several for La La Land, and we had a few other ones. But I think this was the highest margin, and there was obviously a lot of excitement coming off of it. But I tried to like make myself, really stop and think about it, not just with excitement. But even after I did that, I really just thought it was a really well made movie.
I think La La Land came at that point where it was. I mean, we voted right after La La Land.
Right, not a lot of people had seen it.
Yeah, not enough people had seen it, I think. But,
yeah, in my opinion, that's the best movie of the year, like without question. I think it's amazing, but I also did really enjoy Rogue One, so it's pretty good.
I saw Rogue One, loved it. Saw La La Land, loved it even more.
Yeah.
And I like a movie the more and more I think about it afterwards, and so I kept thinking about Rogue One more and more after it, and then La La Land. It wasn't necessarily the plot, but like I've listened to the soundtrack a good amount of times. Not a big musical guy, but I was a big La La Land guy.
Yeah, I think it's almost perfect in most aspects, and that's why it got nominated for so many Oscars. But yeah, I think that is one. It makes you think about life because it's a really real perspective on it, but it's just so beautifully made, and I think that's the main aspect of the movie that people love is just how fun it is to watch, more so than the plot, which is it's not a super complicated plot. It's pretty simple, but it's just so well executed by everyone who does it. It's so fun to watch. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And it was directed by the same director who did Whiplash, and that was one of my favorite movies.
One of my favorite movies ever.
It's a very good movie. It stars Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons won an Oscar for supporting actor. Very famous scene. He throws a chair at Miles Teller, trying to get him to be a better drummer. And Whiplash definitely did not have, La La Land did not have the same tone of Whiplash, but it had that same idea of people being passionate about what they do. And that just makes for great storytelling. What other movies were on your guys' list of best movies of the year, or movies that you enjoyed, because they don't necessarily have to be like the same category?
Right.
I was surprised by how much I liked Deadpool. It was that was pretty early in the year, so I wasn't thinking about it as much. But I generally don't really like comedies, but I do like superhero films, and I thought that was really self-aware enough to make it really enjoyable. And then I also saw Arrival actually a couple weeks ago, and that was after obviously we had already voted. But Arrival's a great film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Arrival.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, because that movie was up there for one of my favorites. Early Oscar snub, Amy Adams not getting nominated for
she was
an Oscar.
Very good.
She really held that movie together. That was her show.
For real.
And this is a dark movie.
Yeah, I love that. It's like it's an alien movie, but it's not what you are used to. It's not, action, crazy, everything.
Right.
And that's what made it even more impressive with how much screen time Amy Adams had, and she had to convey it, trying to, talk to these beings and everything, and trying to understand this, and just the emotion involved in it. I mean, I've always been a gigantic Amy Adams fan, so that just kind of
a lot of it's just. It's not even really her talking, it's because she can't talk to the aliens, so it's a lot of her facial expressions, and they're so subtle but really well done. She does a really good job and definitely holds the movie together. But I thought it was well done and in a similar vein to Interstellar, but different in that it wasn't so ridiculously ambitious, and they kind of kept it more localized on this one plot line of the aliens instead of going all over the place with it. So I liked it. They kept it, small, but with a really interesting topic.
It felt like one of the most human alien movies that I've ever seen, which is weird. Like another movie up there of my favorite sci-fi movies is District 9. I got a lot of District 9 vibes watching Arrival.
For sure.
And I know this director is also going to be directing the Blade Runner reboot, which I'm very excited about that. And then I guess we'll talk about that in a couple of moments. And then he also directed one of my favorite movies of 2015, Sicario. I don't know if you guys saw Sicario.
It's in my list. I know so many good.
Did he do Prisoners too?
He did do Prisoners.
That was really good.
Yeah. Very dark, just very weighty movies.
For sure.
And Sicario had Emily Blunt and Benicio del Toro, and it's a movie you gotta see. Darby, you definitely have to see it. You really have to see it.
It's another one of those. I'm definitely gonna have to see it soon. But yeah, Arrival was just perfect. It was very well written, and I'm glad to see that people are doing smart sci-fi like that. 'Cause I love sci-fi. I even love dumb sci-fi. But it makes me happy to see someone treating it right like that.
Apparently, it was an adapted screenplay from a short.
I think it was a short story.
Yeah, but I mean, it was definitely probably the smartest film I've seen since Interstellar. Just really made you think.
That's not how I would picture it when we first find alien life, that they're going to be giant, like knuckle hand octopus,
like octopus with things.
And about Arrival, just it was one of the first movies in a long time that I went like, oh, in a feeling that like
I put
connection
my head in
thing.
my hands at the end of it. It was intense, and obviously don't want to spoil the ending, but the ending is fantastic, and it's one of the ones you have to look back all the way to the beginning of the movie and consider things in a completely different way, which was really fun. Yeah, super Christopher Nolan, like, just builds and builds and builds, and then just destroys everything you thought it was. I thought it was great.
And with that whole style of storytelling that Arrival kind of turned out to be, like, it's definitely as good the second watch through. You pick up on new things. I think for that, it was my favorite movie of the year, and maybe even the best in the same sense that La La Land is ambitious in what it wanted to do, like make musical movies fun again, and the director did something that few people can ever do, make jazz fun, like 2 times in a row, or 2 movie-going experiences in a row. When we mentioned Christopher Nolan, Dunkirk is coming out.
Also very excited for that.
Yes.
Very excited. What other movies are you guys excited for in 2017? Because I know there are a lot of comic book movies I mentioned during this break or before this. I have a guilty pleasure movie that I'm very excited for, and I'll let you guys know after you kind of talk about the movies you're looking forward to.
Guardians is obviously I think that's one of the most close ones. The first Guardians, went into that. When they first released the trailers for that, I thought Marvel's finally digging the bottom of the barrel. What are we doing here? And then it ended up being my favorite. It's still my favorite Marvel movie, so I'm very excited for that. And I'm also very kind of morbidly curious about Wonder Woman, just because I personally think that Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad were both kind of
Suicide Squad.
they
Oscar snubs.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. The best movies. I think they definitely could have been better, and I'm a little worried about DC being able to actually do this and actually get started in film. So I'm hoping this can be the first one. The trailers look cool, and Gal Gadot. She was the only part I really liked about Batman vs Superman. So I'm kind of optimistic. I know you're more of a DC guy, so
I stand by my B-. No, yeah, I'm 100% a DC guy, and I'm really looking forward to Wonder Woman. It might be DC's final shot at making a great film. We'll see. But I think actually more so than that, I'm extremely excited for Logan. It looks so good. The first trailer with the Johnny Cash theme overplayed it over it. Gosh, it looks so good. I highly recommend to look at those trailers if you haven't already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not even all that invested, and I got goosebumps. It's an awesome trailer.
So I mentioned guilty pleasure movie, Power Rangers movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited.
I'm in no way convinced it'll be good, but I'm
it's Power Rangers.
Yeah, it's a movie that I'm going to hate, but I'm going to see it 5 times. It's just, I don't know, it's got Bryan Cranston and has Bill Hader playing that robot. I forget the name of the robot.
And what's her name?
And
Elizabeth Banks. Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah, playing the villain, and it's just, they even have, now I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Power Rangers lore, but Goldar.
But you should be.
Goldar is in it, and if you look up Goldar, you're going to laugh and shake your head, but they've kind of reimagined his character, and he's going to be in the movie, and as soon as I saw Goldar, I just knew, oh yeah, Power Rangers is going to be my favorite movie of 2017.
When I first saw that trailer, me and my sister were seeing Rogue One. I didn't realize it was Power Rangers at first. I don't know when you into it. My sister started hitting my knee, but this is Power Rangers. I'm like, wait, what?
Because I just lost it seeing the trailer, seeing this guy, doing method acting, getting into his rhythm, and then he just says, "It's morphin' time," and I'm this is a gritty Power Rangers movie.
Those Iron Man suits.
Yeah, it's oh man, what a time to be alive. Now, we have a lot of comic book movies, a lot of sequels coming out. John Wick 2, very excited for that. But, what do you guys think of all of these kind of just sequel movies coming out? Are we ever going to get tired? Is the bubble ever going to burst? And I know comic book movies, a lot of people are always talking about that. And I feel like DC's kind of catching the end of that because a lot of people just haven't enjoyed their movies, and I think maybe that's just because people are kind of tired of that, but it also could just be the way that they're putting their movies together.
I think it is a business. The filmmaking is a business in the end, and a lot of these movies did so well. Avengers making like $1 billion and things like that. So they've just been just pumping superhero movies and sequels like onto the market, and that kind of cheapens it for a lot of them. So I'm skeptical of a lot of the sequels and superhero movies that are going to be coming out. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, it takes a lot of money. It's a big investment to make a movie, and it's easy for us to say everyone should be coming up with more new ideas, but a lot of times that's not what sells. So
Exactly.
I get that, but I do think. I mean, I don't know, but I think there will be a tipping point, and I mean, I think some will hit it earlier than others. I'm starting to get comic book fatigue. I mean, I'm still excited, but I'm starting to get to the point where these movies are starting to look the same. So I think it's definitely a concern, but I mean, I think it'll correct itself eventually. We'll move that on to something else, and then that will get tired. But I don't know. The big question is just how much longer do we have? Like, is Marvel going to be able to go to this 2020 mark where they have movies listed out right now? And that's just part of the question.
I mean, yeah, I think that's why Logan is so exciting for me, because it looks so different than all the other superhero films we've been getting. Mm-hmm. But in terms of fatigue from sequels and stuff, it's interesting how basically, I guess, all the Oscar Best Picture awards are, original films.
Oh, yeah.
But all the best sellers are always going to be sequels, probably. So it's just maintaining that balance of, getting your money back while also trying to put out these new IPs and stuff.
And we're getting a new Fast and Furious. We're getting Fast and Furious 8 this year, where Dom betrays the family. Absolutely unheard of. And I think it's interesting talking about like the comic book fatigue, but I think as long as you still have people working on those movies that are excited not only about like comic books but also like making a good movie. Like what comes to mind is Bryan Singer, like what he did with the X-Men movies. Fantastic movies. Out of the scope of comic movies, they're just good, fun movies to watch, and also like Spider-Man 2, all the way back when Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man.
We didn't even mention the new Spider-Man.
Yeah, the new Spider-Man's coming out.
I was about to say as much as I just said about comic book fatigue. When I was a little kid, I was like, I had Spider-Man costumes, I had everything. So, and I liked the Tobey Maguire movies as a kid. I've gone back to them; they're not as good. So I'm excited for what that could be, because I think whoever the kid that played him in Civil War,
it seems like he's actually like
fantastic,
a high schooler and not like a 25-year-old dude playing it like Tobey Maguire was. So that'll be interesting to see someone who like actually looks like a teenager.
Mm-hmm. And I know I asked this about TV shows. Obviously, movies can be the same thing. Movies that are on your list that you missed this year, because I know mine are a lot of them by A24, because they did a lot of great movies this year. Lobster Man, or The Lobster.
That's on my list.
Swiss Army Man.
Swiss Army Man is fantastic. I will play so hard.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's like, what is the premise of Swiss Army Man?
So,
who can explain it?
Paul Dano, he was in Little Miss Sunshine and There Will Be Blood and all those movies. The movie opens on an island, and he's about to hang himself because he's like desolate, like no one's there. And right as he's about to hang himself, Daniel Radcliffe's dead body washes up on shore, and he like runs down and goes and gets him. And so he thinks he's alive at first, and then upon further inspection, he's dead. And the way the movie honestly starts is Daniel Radcliffe starts farting into the water, and then, like, as the movie progresses, he starts coming to life, and Paul Dano teaches him all these super metaphysical things about life and all these weird concepts. And it's just so strange and well done, and it was just so unlike anything I'd ever seen. I loved it. I could see why a lot of people won't love it. I think, like, girls probably are not going to be huge fans of it, but there's a lot of guy humor in it. I thought it was great.
The biggest thing is you would think that with that premise, it's just going to be like...
You think it'd be just absurd.
You think it's absurd? You think it was going to be just like a really dumb, low-hanging fruit comedy, but it's actually legitimately like the jokes and stuff are well thought out, and it was actually like some thought-provoking humor.
Like introspective parts of it.
And I think the directors, I mean, like, I don't know this exactly, I think I read this, that they even said that there was two guys that directed it, and they said that they hate fart humor and stuff like that, but and that's kind of why they did it, because they wanted to task themselves to do it. And it is the weirdest movie I've ever seen in my life. But
I enjoyed it.
I mean, I saw it with like a friend of mine at the Nick.
I did too.
Yeah, and we just the entire time we were looking at each other like, what is going on? But I can't suggest it enough for if you think you might be.
Weird stuff. You will love that movie.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of good things about The Lobster. I've heard that. So.
I think got a screenplay nomination or something like that.
Yeah, it did get a nod. Let's see, what else was on there? 20th Century Women, another one by A24, and then Moonlight, which got nominated.
That is closely behind La La Land for my favorite movie of the year. It is just, for emotional movies, that does not get any better than that this year. It's one of those movies that you're tearing up just because it's kind of accurate, and it portrays this life of a black man as he grows up in all these terrible situations. And a lot of movies focus on like the exterior, like tough guy persona that like a lot of people feel like they have to put on, and this one really focuses on an interior, like the emotions and softness of the person, and it's just so good and so emotional and really well written and well done. I can't recommend that one enough, as well as Manchester by the Sea.
Manchester by the Sea.
For emotional movies, that one's also really, really good. And Casey Affleck, I think, is just like can't get any better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that movie was a movie that I would see it again if I could fast forward through some scenes, because it's just so incredibly dark.
It's hard to watch in a lot of points. Yeah.
But I love Manchester by the Sea. Kenneth Lonergan did it. He did This Is Our Youth, which is a great play.
That was a play, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Hacksaw Ridge?
I did not.
I heard that was good.
Very good.
It was Mel Gibson directed that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Andrew Garfield actually put on quite the performance.
Yeah, he got nominated.
Really good.
Now, was that like an anti-war movie? Or was it like, did it just kind of get itself into war?
I definitely didn't see like anti-war themes or anything
like
that.
Character study more so.
Yeah, it was just a really deep character study of this guy with an incredible story during World War II. Yeah.
Because I heard it was so violent. Like, was it very violent?
It's definitely the most violent film probably I've seen since.
He makes such violent movies.
Yeah, I mean, like
Mel Gibson. Yeah.
Yeah, Mel Gibson. I mean, like Passion of the Christ, probably
Braveheart and stuff. Yeah,
most violent movies.
Yeah, maybe ever.
I don't know, but I felt like there was a purpose in this because he's a medic in the movie, and it's just really showing the brutality of war and like the stuff that he had to save people from. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, how was Andrew Garfield's accent? Because the thing that kind of turned me away from the movie was hearing his line, "I'll be saving lives, not taking them, sir." And I was just like, that's not, like, who sounds like that, Andrew? Like,
doctor, but didn't get much school. I can't stay here while all them go fight for me.
But you figure this war is just going to fit in with your ideas?
While everybody else is taking life, I'm going to be saving it. And that's going to be my way to serve.
It was really strange because, I mean, the film starts off, I don't know, a little before he joins the war, and he's, like, just in his hometown. I'm not sure exactly where he's supposed to be from, but he has this really weird southern type of accent in the film. It's strange.
And Vince Vaughn is in that movie, right? We were talking about Vince Vaughn earlier.
Serious.
Welcome to the Vince Vaughn podcast.
Next week we'll be talking Wedding Crashers, and then before that, The Internship. And then I guess looking forward to 2017, we also have Star Wars Episode 8, which they just announced a new title to and new logo to, I guess, because they had like a red outline for Star Wars instead of the traditional yellow. And a lot of people are making jokes like, "Oh, this is going to be the Empire Strikes Back of the series."
That's not worry.
Because like as much as I loved Force Awakens. It was awesome, and I had so much fun. But like the further you get away from it, the more you think about it. I mean, I know it's been rehashed over and over, but it was A New Hope. It was A New Hope.
Yeah,
beat for beat.
Even like shot for shot. Some of the shots were like identical.
Which I understand. Like, I mean, I guess I would rather that than the prequels. I understand they had a steep hill to climb. They had to kind of do that kind of things, and I think it can be rectified as long as this is not just Empire again.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see more of Rey and Finn. That was one of my complaints about The Force Awakens too, is that, like, and I didn't expect that when going in. I was like, yeah, Star Wars, but I was excited. I wanted to see more of Rey and Finn. I was like, Han's great, whatever, but I want to see more of them.
I agree.
So I hope we get to see more of that. And
because with, I guess, the Star Wars whole thing, like, there's always a lot of expectations. I'm excited it's done by Rian Johnson, who did Looper, which is one of my favorite, like, sci-fi style movies. And I think it could be okay if they try and do their own thing, and if they don't try and rehash Empire Strikes Back, which is my favorite Star Wars movie. But I do want to see something different for what they can do, and the potential is there. I mean, Rogue One.
Yeah, I was about to say, looping back to Rogue One. Yeah, Rogue One did a lot of things differently, so hopefully that can kind of like pave the way. I mean, obviously it was already going to be its own thing, and they're kind of in different worlds now. But hopefully that kind of sets the tone for what they can do here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be surprised, basically, by this movie.
And what were some letdowns of this year? Suicide Squad comes to mind.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
it was pretty awful.
Will, how did you? I remember. I think if I remember right, I think you weren't like completely positive, but you were definitely more positive than I saw other people.
Yeah, I was definitely more positive. Weirdly enough, I actually rated that lower than Batman vs Superman.
Well, I mean, I agree.
I would have as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people said, or they thought that Suicide Squad was better, which I didn't agree with. But.
I barely think Suicide Squad's a movie.
It was just
more than just a like series.
It's like no character development.
Yeah, I think like I had to set people's expectations when they were going to see that film. I had to just be like, this is going to be a Fast and Furious Expendables type of movie. Like, don't go into this looking for a character study.
They made a huge deal about Jared Leto and the Joker and all that.
Yeah.
He's in the movie for 10 minutes.
Obviously, some sort of serious development problems, I think.
Yeah,
well, I was
very flawed.
I was sitting there like an hour into the movie, and then I felt like the movie started. It was like the first hour they were like, they introduce a character, and then they go into like 15 or 20 minutes of their backstory, way too in depth. I'm like, okay, well that's over finally. And they're like, they crack Captain Boomerang. Let's go into his thing. I'm like,
they mashed like two movies together and tried to just make it one.
They just tried to do way too much. That was their main fault, I think.
It's a lot of it, what I heard was like, all right, this is this character, he does this, and all right, next character, like, he does this, and that's why he's in this movie.
The antagonist was by far the worst part, I think. It was so weird. Just, it was a magical being up against, like, bullets, basically. It was like, what are you doing? It was weird.
And another movie that came out in the holiday season that wasn't a disappointment, a lot of people liked it, actually, was Fantastic Beasts, the new kind of Harry Potter universe movie. And is that going to kind of put that series back onto the map for movies coming out?
I can't tell. I actually haven't seen it, but I've heard it was good. But I just feel like people haven't been seeing it as much as they saw Harry Potter. Like, I didn't feel like I need to go see this right when it comes out, even though, I love Eddie Redmayne. So it's just one of those things that, like, I think people are just don't have high expectations for it after Harry Potter. But, I think it was a little bit of a letdown for some people.
Well, and I know, like, even my older sister was a huge Harry Potter fan before I read all the books, read them to me when I was little and all this other stuff, and then I talked to her about it, and she didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it wasn't hyped up, like, Harry Potter movies coming out, like, a year before, and I just kind of figured out, like, oh, this is happening, like, a month before it came out, so maybe it was just due to their marketing campaign was a little faulty. I don't know.
And maybe it's just that I really don't know how it how it sold or anything, but I just didn't hear that much about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And looking forward to 2017, 2 movies on my list that I know I'm going to see are the new Alien movie, the new Ridley Scott Alien movie, with Danny McBride is in that movie, so I'll probably crack up as soon as he comes on screen. Like, the fact that Kenny Powers is in an Alien movie is preposterous.
He's one of those that I have trouble disassociating. Like, when I see him in a movie or something, I'm just like, that's Danny McBride. That's not whoever you're trying to make me think.
Just stumbled onto the set. And then another movie is the Blade Runner reboot. Blade Runner 2077 is what it's called, or 2047. Because Blade Runner, one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. And I think Ryan Gosling's going to do a great job in that movie.
Yeah, I have I for a long time thought he wasn't that great, and then I've seen some of his movies that are like less popular. He's really good, so I think I have a lot of faith in him to carry that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I became a huge fan after Drive.
Drive is fantastic. Yeah,
love Drive. But yeah, any other? What are you guys looking forward to 2017?
Has anyone seen Silence, the Martin Scorsese movie? I heard that was kind of a letdown.
That's on my list.
Even though he is one of my favorite directors and, like, arguably the greatest ever. People just, like, I don't know, it barely got nominated. Like, it didn't do well. I think it was, like, super long. But, I don't know, I had high hopes, and I haven't even, like, cared to see it now because people just aren't, like, really saying anything about it, which is surprising for a Scorsese movie.
But do you think there were some movies this year, like, everyone listening should definitely go see Kubo and the Two Strings.
I heard that was good.
Yeah. No one saw that movie. Like, I went and saw it, like, to review it here because I thought it looked really interesting, and I, like, absolutely loved it. The stop-motion animation, like, after the movie, they showed, like, a little scene of how they made it, and, like, I just assumed, like, oh, a lot of this must be CG because, like, it's stop motion, but it's like an action movie. Like, the scenes are crazy. They're jumping around doing all this stuff. So there's no way. And then they go into it, and they have, like, the entire sets built, and they, like, step by step do the whole thing. And it's very impressive. So that's something, not nearly enough people saw that. So I think they should definitely.
Yeah. So, moral of the story, a lot of great movies came out this year, and going to be a lot of good movies coming out in 2017. Thank you so much for being on the show on 90.5 Minutes of the News. Stay tuned.